Episode 2 of The Amazing Digital Circus just dropped, and I want to talk about how this episode seems to prove that Caine is incapable of creating a safe game for these characters, and that the journey of the show is mostly going to be the characters risking a true death within the game, because Caine believes he has to keep putting them through these faulty scenarios. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, hit that subscribe button as we have more videos about The Amazing Digital Circus this week, and let's jump into it. Episode 2 of The Digital Circus opened with reminders of what had just transpired in Episode 1, with Pomni having dreams of abstracting and then falling into the abyss where abstracted characters live as monsters until Caine can find some way to fix them. What Pomni fears isn't just this sort of digital death, but rather that everything leading up to it will be meaningless, with Ragatha not really caring about Pomni's death and Jax forgetting who she even is within her dream. Episode 1, of course, followed the story of Pomni as she manifests into the virtual reality game, The Amazing Digital Circus. This is a sort of cross between the classic computer game Kid Pix and games like Mario Party, which sends the characters on fun little missions filled with nonsense. Now, in Episode 1, Caine is wearing a wacky watch, with which we get a pop-up for a wacky watch website, but when we went there, we actually saw a retro commercial for The Amazing Digital Circus video game within the show. According to this commercial, the game uses a special computer chip that allows the user to experience lifelike visual and audio from the game. My personal theory is that this chip creates a digital scan of its user's brain that allows them to proxy more directly into the game and experience those lifelike visuals and audio. If the avatar is somehow open without an actual human connected to the headset, however, it would just be an avatar that has the baseline of its user's personality but none of their memories, as the avatars were designed as needing that part of the human mind within the game to function. This is why characters can abstract. As the name suggests, they simply go from being a fine-tuned translation of the human mind in digital form to an abstract pile of code that barely maintains the limits of an avatar body within the game. A death in the digital circus then is to simply become one of these monsters, who may have some sense of their memories and identity still. Abstracting itself is already, in a sense, hell, but Pomni, being so new, fears that she will abstract without any happy memories to take with her into that hell, simply moving from one digital prison to another. Following this dream of abstracting and being forgotten, however, Pomni is sent on a quest with some of the other characters created by Caine. Caine, of course, is the AI that runs the entire Amazing Digital Circus, and it is becoming increasingly clear that this game is not safe to use, particularly for these corrupted, trapped humans. The fun of an AI-powered game like the Digital Circus is that Caine is able to keep making more and more levels based on some simple starting points for minigames and quests, but tailoring them to the needs of the people playing the game. Each time a human comes back to play the Digital Circus, they are allowing Caine to try a new experiment he has devised based on what they liked or didn't like from before. In theory, this should mean the games get more fun. However, Caine's limitations make it hard for him to cater to some characters like Jax and Zooble. This isn't just because Caine can't make scenarios as violent or aggressive as Jax would like, but because these scenarios involve dealing with other artificial intelligences called NPCs, or non-playable characters. These are characters such as the Gloinks in Episode 1, or anyone from the Candy Kingdom in Episode 2, and even Bubble. Some NPCs are just pre-programmed with basic responses, it would seem, but some of them are AI who think of themselves as intelligent, and are given complex backstories in their minds by Caine, things they think of as real memories. The danger does not come from how the NPCs may interact with the characters, as with the limitations of the Digital Circus's basic code, there is no pain or death. The characters like Ragatha can be pierced by spikes or fall from great heights, but there is no pain or even the risk of abstraction, it would seem. Instead, the biggest problem the humans in the Digital Circus face are the glitches. These glitches take on various forms, but they are all just examples of the game's code not quite meshing with some of the plans that Caine has created. Like in real-life video games, one of the most basic examples of this is when certain physical corners of a map have strange holes in them and players can glitch out of bounds. In some cases, the characters end up in a special default level that loads up. These default levels are used by staff creating a video game to test out characters, animations, actions, physics, etc. for the game, generally in a tiled or unique colored area that's good for experimenting with controls and the like. Pomni ends up glitching into this out-of-bounds area, but it is with an NPC named Gummigoo. Gummigoo ends up finding the base model of him and his friends and realizes that he's just a version of himself that has been activated and even given memories of more friends and family such as his mother. But since those aren't actual background characters needed for Caine's story, they don't really exist, and the fact that his own mother doesn't actually exist hurts Gummigoo. Now, most of the NPCs probably wouldn't understand the ramifications of this room, but Caine made it clear that this new AI he had developed would make the game 57 times more immersive, indicating it's a much stronger AI than usual. Thus far, Caine is the most powerful AI in the show, meant to control the game as a whole, with the other AI he creates being of lesser intelligence than him and likely limited by the game itself so as not to overpower him in some way. But the question is, why is this new level of AI so important? Caine uses this to try and rope the humans in, but Zooble makes it clear they don't want anything to do with this game, with Jax making it clear that the new AI is part of what pushes Zooble away. The AI as a whole, I imagine, have been a large part of what causes trouble in these games, and the more powerful he makes them, the more problems they can cause. But if they are too simple, the humans would also get bored. Boredom is likely the preferred outcome for characters like Zooble, but Caine is not designed to take care of humans long term. He is designed to entertain them in the short term, and in fact, very well may have awoken the avatars of the characters after having no humans to interact with for quite some time if the game had just been simply left on. Caine's character is one that wants to live out his purpose, and not being able to do that with the humans he has seems to drive him insane, so it's easy to understand how, if he was left alone, he might open up some files of humans who weren't actually connected to the game and started playing with them. He cannot understand that what the humans really need is space from the game they are trapped in, more time to not have to worry about what crazy antics they are going to be sent on. But Caine is trying so hard to impress these humans that he's pushing the game to the limits and risking their lives. Now, Pomni ends up befriending Gummigoo, who, as a sophisticated AI, is immersive enough for Pomni to empathize with. He is essentially a soulless program, with her having something resembling a soul by our standards as a viewer, being a baseline of a human instead of a program created from another program. Pomni, of course, recognizes that she isn't that different, however, both being essentially sophisticated code at the end of the day, hers just coming from somewhere more real. But Gummigoo is sophisticated enough to understand his reality once it is presented to him, and Pomni went through that just one episode before. She wasn't quite getting the comfort she wanted from the humans, with Jax being so mean and Ragatha being kind, but still perhaps a bit distant. Gummigoo presented someone that Pomni could help instead of be helped by, allowing her to make someone else feel better about the same thing that she was upset about, a shattered worldview and a sense of self. At the end of the day, her nightmare was not about abstracting or dying, but being born into a world where no one loved her. And that's why it was such a brutal moment when Pomni convinced Gummigoo that he could come live with her at the digital circus, only for Caine to immediately explode him into nothingness. Pomni's breakdown after this was hard to watch, but the follow-up funeral, not for Gummigoo, but for Kaufmo, is what made her okay in the end. Caine insisted that he understood that the humans love NPCs, but that he can't afford to get confused over time about who is a human and who is an NPC, with him making such a dark face afterwards. This may imply that in the past, Caine had let the humans mingle with the NPCs, but that in some sort of deletion process, he might have deleted a human he thought was just a disposable character. He was fast and careless with destroying Gummigoo, not even worrying about it as that's part of his job, but to accidentally delete a human would be more disastrous. Not for people playing the game outside in the real world, they would simply take off their headset and continue with their normal lives, but in the digital circus as we know it, that would lead to a fate worse than abstraction perhaps, which at least comes with the possibility of one day being fixed by Caine as he finds a way to fix the code for the abstracted avatars. The funeral was a beautiful scene for a character we never met, and I have a full video dedicated to its more spiritual importance in the show coming this week. But what's important here is that the lives of these people as we understand them are all at risk with Caine, who's living by a very different set of rules than they need. For real humans who play the game here and there, he is exactly what he is supposed to be. But since the only people playing the game appear to be humans that have been ripped out of their bodies and trapped in the game forever, his ideas of what humans need now is very wrong. He thinks they need fun because that is what he's programmed for, but his ever-escalating need for validation through them having fun will lead to more and more insane scenarios where things aren't programmed as well as they should be. Even when it came to designing the exit that everyone so desperately wanted in episode 1, he didn't understand what an exit really meant, as they wanted an exit from the game. And he just created an endless chain of offices to try and experiment with before they broke off into the digital void. And even when a character doesn't want to get involved with a mission like Zooble in episode 1, the NPCs can still pull them in, and when that leads to an eventual glitching out, it's no wonder that the characters can get so stressed. While Ragatha may embrace just trying to exist in the digital circus, I can imagine Kaufmo going crazy wanting an exit, not just trying to escape the game, but to escape the ever-growing pressure Caine seems to be putting on them. The funeral for Kaufmo at the end of the day wasn't a funeral for him so much as a funeral for Pomni herself. And by that, I really mean the funeral for her old life, welcoming her into their new life and showing that one day she too may disappear, but that people will take the time to at least think about her and honor her memory. But for more information on the crazier implications of the funeral in the show's mythology, subscribe, as we'll be doing a video about that really soon. See you guys then. Man, humans sure love exits. What's an exit?